hitting upon something there. I think that is important. Yeah, the arc
So
is
you got to get an angel out
Archangel.
of a circle.
You know what?
Is-
If you
I don't know
took,
what it means.
Maybe.
Good question.
if you took a meter and you swung it as a pendulum, it will give you a second. Okay. So if you divide that circle by 6, like the flower of life, it gives you the length of the Egyptian royal cubit. There's 6 of those for every circle. So if you took a meter and made a circle, there is 6 Egyptian royal cubits that go around in length. The arc
Really?
is a measurement.
It means chief.
Yes.
It means chief angel. That's what it means.
I
Michael
heard
is the
about
only
this too.
individual so designated in
I'm
the
gonna shut up
latter-day
now.
Spain
I'm just
canon.
gonna shut up.
I don't know. Wikipedia says it means chief. It's one word, by the way. Archangel. One word. Chief angel is what it means. So Michael is the chief angel, I guess, according to Wikipedia.
Or a
you got-
chief angle. A chief angle.
So
On a
here
circle.
we
Michael
have
is the only individual designated in the Latter-day
Measurement.
Saints canon.
33 degrees.
what are your thoughts on these? Because these are supposedly angels and demons.
Yeah, these are the seals of Solomon, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, more contracts. That's all what I
Right.
think about.
Well, what happens if you write one of these in blood? Is that how you make the contract with them, or supposedly put a gold foil on yourself? I don't know. It's kind of sketchy, but they do look like circuits an awful lot. Like,
Yeah,
like
I think
I
so
mean, you
too.
look at you think about free will. Contracts don't apply to anything.
well,
If you
no,
have
that's
free
just
will.
If you
your
guys,
your will.
Hey, Bernie, go back to 41. Go back to 41. See on the left side there? It looks
Looks
like
like
a
a coil.
coil. Looks like
Yep.
a coil. And then where the line is crossed and in between in the middle, that short line, yeah, right there. You can almost depict that as a spark gap.
Interesting.
I could be
Could you
just
see a couple of diodes?
could be diodes or it could be a load of some kind. I don't know. I could be just blowing wind here, but
Not at all. No, these are questions that need to be answered because it's like this looks like electric circuitry, and well, I don't know.
There's a guy who took the crop circles, did the same thing. He's making
the crop circles. I didn't know this, but there was
on
crop
YouTube.
circles showing up in a town just next to where I live back in the 1990s, and they were quite large. They were about anywhere from 200 to 400 meters in diameter. They were quite large, and they're just showing up in this guy's cornfield overnight. Boom, they're there. Huge, very elaborate.
That's
There's a
fascinating.
guy on
And
YouTube who's building a magnetic rotary system based off the crop circles. He says it's
I've seen that.
You saw that? Yeah.
I'm very interested.
remember his
Mike,
handle.
or Faraday,
Yeah,
you had mentioned these crop circles before, and what were they next to, though? Wasn't it like some facility or something? Or close by or something?
There are a lot of underground water aquifers in the area. It's also pretty close to the Niagara Escarpment. I don't know if that means anything.
Interesting.
yeah.
And then we got the potential fractal, like a cell phone, right? Fractal antenna on some of these.
Yeah, I do believe some of these things are.
There's the
depicting,
Templar cross,
some kind
and
of-
that's number 12.
Right, that just, yeah, 3 of them, and that's essentially like a fractal antenna too.
I had I was working on a algorithm that would generate various symbols that were very similar to these. So I had to kind of break down how some of them were created. And some of the patterns, if you look into the history of these Solomonic seals, they go back to like the 13th century, I think, in some cases. But a lot of them revolve around a magic square where you just break out like the square of Saturn, and then you just simply plot different points on that square. And then you kind of just connect the dots with all the points you've plotted to spell out certain words or to plot out certain numbers. And once you connect those all together, then they would use certain techniques like symmetry, where they would just reflect the pattern they created. And sometimes symmetry would mean something, magical within the name of that one demon. So that's kind of how
Any
some of those
engineers
designs
out
are made.
there, any engineers out there will agree with the magic squares. If you talk about the John Searle effect,
Yeah,
John Searle effect.
Yeah.
let's
He
get
used
into
magic
the
squares.
magic squares a bit more.
All
Actually,
right. Yeah.
27 looked like a radio transmitter, a radio
Yep.
with a speaker.
Yep, very much so.
You saw that one, Mike?
Yep.
27?
Ratios, I guess, is the main point where we're getting at here. The golden ratio and all that. Ratios are important. The golden squares are kind of like a cipher way to do it. And John Searle used golden numbers of the square to do his anti-gravity and free energy project. It's cool, Paranoid.
yeah,
How do you, how do
I
you get
didn't
that
make
golden
'em. I
ratio
wish I
to
could
tie
take
up with
credit.
pi?
Yeah, I'm more of an engineer, so I'm just trying to let you in on that.
Yeah,
I'm
like
sure-
recently I've been studying the cold heat engine that they made here in Canada back in 1952 with three British engineers. They're working for Avro. Remember the Avro?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the hover.
strategic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was
Okay.
kind of
Well, that
Silly,
project
but-
there, the Avro car, that was a front. That was the
Mhm.
least advanced of
It was
all the
silly.
stuff that they were doing. Oh man, you should see what they were doing.
Oh, I know.
See, the cold heat engine, what it was is they modified a refrigeration unit, and they made a copper tube, and then another copper tube in it, and they had a coil of wire around the outer copper tube, and it was hooked up to a power source. So by accident, when they were working with this, they were shooting cold air through that tube, and for some reason or another, circumstances, they dropped by accident a carbon rod down that copper tube cylinder. And when this happened, that copper graphite rod they dropped in there started glowing red hot. So yeah, it's super cool on the outside, but red hot on the inside.
If I
that
may
was-
say, Tesla said you can almost get an endless supply from carbon
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, yeah.
I
so
know.
it's
I know you know that.
yeah, after studying for the last 2 weeks on what they were doing. So they had about 4 different versions of this generator, and it's all based around basically off the shelf refrigeration parts. Nothing special. A lot of stuff was off the shelf that you can get today. And they made this chamber that is similar to what they had before, but it had an arrangement of magnets in a spiral going towards the center, which would be very small, wide on the outside, condensed on the inside. So the way they spaced the magnets on the inside, they were basically working with the Hellback effect, right?
Hallback. Yeah,
Hellback,
it's
the
a focus.
Hellback
It's a
effect.
focus. It's a focus of
Right.
the magnetism.
So it was 2 spirals going opposite directions, okay, and meeting in the middle, getting smaller and smaller to about a point, maybe a half inch in diameter. And this is where they would have that carbon graphite rod sitting.
Hmm.
That's
So
similar to the
So-
Z pinch or whatever.
yeah, so to make a long
Could be
story
easy, Ben.
make a long story short, I seen the test results. 8,000 BTUs going in, okay, and get this, 31,800 BTUs coming out.
Well, if I can go on one level above that, Boyd Bushman, you heard of him, right?
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Okay, so
He
imagine
was
that
the,
magnetic
Skunk Fox, head of Skunk Fox, right? Or Skunk Works.
Skunk Works.
My
Yeah,
bad.
Lockheed
Skunk Works.
Martin Skunk Works.
No,
Yes,
There we go.
no, these guys.
but I know. But imagine his magnetic hallback focus on that.
yeah,
I
I'll
see
tell
what
you
you're
something
saying.
right now. Not to down the Americans, but the British in the mid 1940s and 50s, they were way ahead of the Germans, and they're way ahead of the Americans.
You think they're ahead of the Germans?
Oh yes, yep,
Huh.
most definitely.
Okay.
The
I
Germans
don't
were
know.
not. Yep. The
This
British-
has to do with Professor
Hold on.
Simon, right? It's what he was. been
Germans
saying?
were
No,
on
no,
another level.
No, they weren't. The British, when it came down to engineering stuff, were way ahead of the Germans. But what the Germans were good. Hold on, let me finish. The Germans were probably the best researchers of ancient text and ancient technologies. So they were able to
the
bring
Vril Society. You know,
well, that was part of them. That was just one little
it's
thing.
part-
It was how they sent the SS around the world to get all of the different ancient texts, right? And they raided all the
Right.
different libraries, and like it was just they literally had the largest esoteric library collection
Yes.
ever.
yeah,
By
they were
far,
very
by far.
occult. I agree.
They
They're
were
very occult.
they were excellent researchers. They were good
Mhm.
engineers too. I'm not knocking the German.
Victor
engineering.
Schauberger, Chapeller, dude. Chapeller, I think he
Yeah.
was the guy responsible
Well,
for UFOs.
Schauberger was born in Austria, from what I know.
Yeah,
He
but
was
he was
Austrian.
recruited into
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
scene of that.
Well, yeah,
but
well, it was-
Chapeller was the guy though that made it happen. I
Mhm.
I think
yeah. So as far as like the,
Carl Chapeller.
but as far as
Sorry.
like the esoteric stuff, the Germans were the best at it, but the British were the best to re-engineer this stuff. Ian Toz, Ian Thomas, and Bert England. Those three guys were the top engineers in the world back in the mid
Wow.
50s. They were the
Makes
top
sense.
engineers.
It makes sense because they had the whole Royal Society, and the British make.
Well,
a big thing there.
they're all like scholars from Oxford and
Right.
Cambridge.
Yeah,
have
they
the
try to
highest-
make it. Yeah, it makes sense, but that's cool because I always assume that.
Now, here's the funny
Germans-
part. This is what I found out today. Apparently, those machines still exist, and they're about probably maybe an less than 45 minutes drive from me. That's the crazy
Wow.
part.
Oh my goodness!
Yep, they're still
Dude.
alive today. Before
No
Ian
way.
Thomas passed
In
away.
Canada?
In Canada, right in Toronto.
Oh my God, we gotta go, Mike. We gotta go.
Dude.
It's a matter of finding William Doyle Jr.
Shout out, Mike.
What's that? I got to
So
show
you're saying shout out to Mike
No,
Doe.
not shut up. No. He was saying shout out to the other Mike who said he was subbed
Oh,
to his
okay.
channel for a while. You continue. Good.
Too many
Fair.
mics, bro, in one room. What is this?
Too confusing.
I'm right here, man. Mike does.
You could call me Faraday. No. But yeah, that's kind of intriguing. I like to see if William Doyle Jr.
Call me
is still
Doug.
alive. He'd be in his 80s now because in 2012, when he did the videos, he was 70. So he'd be about 80, 85 years old now. I don't know if he's still alive, but if he is, he has all the research material. He has 4 working machines in shipping containers. There's one engineer that's supposedly alive that was trained by Ian Toss personally. So there's only one guy on this planet that knows how to rebuild those machines.
Ian Toss. I'm gonna have to look him up.
Yeah, you're gonna have to get one of those so we can all make a reverse refrigerator power unit.
Well,
Because
this is the thing too.
It's funny. I heard of this lady that had a UFO encounter, and when she explained it, she said it looked like a refrigerator below the thing. And she was like a
Huh?
Southern lady.
See, there you go. There you go.
Because like you got the serpent kind of back and forth coils in a refrigerator that are different than a circular,
Well,
because
they're creating the negative
Normally-
energy.
normally though in a refrigerator you got like a back and forth serpent type
Right.
of pattern instead of a circular pattern. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because like most people who make over Unity devices or free energy devices, they have to create an open system. This was a closed system.
Hmm.
Because it was a closed system, they were able to get very accurate readings on the BTUs going in and the BTUs coming out. Now,
Hmm.
that unit that they were making, there was a purpose for it, not just free energy. It was designed to run those UFOs they were designing at Avro. Now, the Avro card that everybody sees on TV, that is the smallest one that they built at Avro. The largest one,
It was a hovercraft.
no, it wasn't. It was anti-gravity because the actual guy that was headed that project was T. Townsend Brown.
Yeah, but it was a gimmick. It was a gimmick like what you would see as a conventional hovercraft, like that would go
Right.
into
That was the front to
right.
deter people thinking, oh, they're
Yeah,
just
the
making-
Avro. Yeah, and it makes people think that this is just a hovercraft.
Yeah, exactly. Meanwhile, in the hangar, they got a UFO that's 120 meters in diameter.
Nice, gotcha.
So they were building the Avro cart and then 2 other models. So they had a total of 3 different UFOs there.
And you would put something forward that looks like it's not going.
Yeah, a front. They were putting a front, so
Yeah,
the public would see it. Oh, they're just playing. They're just putting
this
the
is
hover-
silly. Like, why? What are you doing? You're using a bunch of fans to lift it like 2 inches off
Yeah.
the ground.
See, John Frost, he was the head engineer for the Avro Aero. Now, he was also working on the Avro cars. He was also a front. They didn't want nobody to know that T. Townsend Brown was actually the guy in charge, not him.
Gotcha.
Jo-
Yeah,
John Frost.
yeah. And when T. Townsend Brown started spinning things is where it gets confidential, is all I'm gonna say.
Well, that's where it
You
goes
know what I
black.
mean?
Yeah.
Wasn't T. Townsend
Yeah.
doing the same stuff that Otis Carr was doing?
It's similar. Otis Carr was doing like a magnetic, like U-ring looking thing through a spinning platform.
Yeah, he was doing.
But TT Brown was doing more
about the Utron?
statics. Yeah, the
connected
Utron.
together.
But TT Brown was doing more asymmetrical
Electrical
capacitance.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, right,
asymmetrical
right, okay.
capacitance.
So that was the difference.
Yeah.
I've got the patent somewhere here. Hold on.
I
Look
thought
up the
Otis
Av-
Carr was
look-
doing the asymmetrical.
Well, look up the Avro car. Look up the Avro.
No,
car.
Otis
That's what
wasn't
he
doing
uses.
I don't
The
have
Avro
that
car is
one.
probably that one's patented. But look up the Avro car. You should be able to find a lot of pictures of that.
Yeah.
On.
That was the front though, right? Wasn't that the front?
Yep, that was the front. That was the one that they would leak to the public, right?
Yeah, so sorry. Before we continue on that, Thomas has to go pretty quick here as we're getting past his time. But do you want to share any other stuff that you're working on promoting, good sir, and what you got going on?
I mean, we just went over some of those satanic panic pages. If that sounds interesting to you and you want to grab a piece of that one when it's available, the way that I usually release these comics is that you can join it on like a Kickstarter and then you'll get it like a year before anyone else, or at least 6 months before anyone else, because we got to know how many to make. So you can go to satanicpaniccomic.com to sign up for that one. I also got one on the Titanic at titaniccomic.com. And then there's another one.
why did you
called-
do TitanicPanic.com? You missed out.
I only get so many. I got KubrickComic.com that's coming up. I've been working on with David Charles Plate, a think tank, where we're creating a comic that explains the Tetragrammaton, Kabbalah, and Kubrick symbolism, aka Kubrickology, all in one little pamphlet, and the Golden Bough, which is a pretty large undertaking. Fraser's Golden Bough. It tries to summarize all those things in one little comic. And then I got to do another shout out of doesbigfootexist.com, which is the Bigfoot comic that I've been working on with Nate from Reality Czars. So I got a bunch of plates spinning in the air. But yeah, if you're interested in any of those, you can just go to paranoidamerican.com, and I got links to sign up for all those various ones. And it honestly, it's been a pleasure to like just share some space with you guys. I learn, immense amounts every time that I do this show with Bernie. I was delighted that we got to show the Superwave fusion stuff. I literally myself haven't seen those in like 15 years.
That was awesome.
So weird,
like,
man.
Such a sync, and that's another sync that Thomas does every week with Exertus, is the Sync Tank show on Tuesdays, right?
Yep, every Tuesday. I think it shifts around a little bit depending on what country the CIA has Xertus stationed in at any given time. But right now it's Tuesday.
CIA confirmed. I knew it.
At 12.
Or Gotti.
3 Eastern.
There was never any doubt in my mind, but we still love our brother.
No, he's honestly, I joke. He's way too smart for the CIA. So I don't know. Like, he's in some other alphabet group that I don't even know the name of because I'm not smart enough to hear. It's like an ineffable name of intelligence or something.
It's like fungible NFT NSA.
Right.
That's silly.
NFTs, they went the way of the dodo.
Those lines. All right. So everybody that's interested in Thomas's amazing works, to help him pre-sell another 5,000 editions like you did with your Illuminati.
I could quit my job. I could quit my normie job and just do this full time if they were all successful as the Illuminati comic was. So yeah.
Hey, Thomas, is there any way you could put your link in the chat? Or
put it in the private
course.
chat, then I can spam it for you as well. paranoidamerican.com.
There you go. Yeah. Jarvis, Bernie, Mike, I appreciate all of you. Thank you so much for letting me hang out and talk to you guys. Appreciate you all, man.
Thank you.
Always a pleasure, brother. Until we do it again, good luck and love your work.
33 out.
Illuminati confirmed.
33.
All right, so we got like a half hour left. 33 degrees right there. Heating up.
It's the humidity.
Oh, humidity. Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty hot here in Toronto today. Warmest day of the year.
Yeah, this is 90 degrees. Like I live next to a lake, so obviously in Georgia, like the sun just evaporates, and I can't get. It's hard to get below. Yeah, it's silly. It's funny.
Yeah,
but me and Sean are doing good.
Yeah, we got the great.
Hey, I actually had a question for you, Faraday, if you don't mind. Do you know the Curie temperature of barium titanate?
Oh God, curing temperature? It's pretty high. It's pretty high. For some reason it's 2,000 degrees C. It's quite high.
Really?
Yeah, it's quite
really.
Yeah,
because Sean was asking me. Asking me.
I'll double check on. I don't know. For some reason, 2,000 comes in my head. It's quite high. Now, the reason is when they heat it up that hot, and when they make, say, like a wafer with barium titanate, they have to squeeze it to almost like 2 tons of pressure and heat it at the same time for it to cure. So
they're trying to centering.
Yeah, well, when you put it under pressure, the barium titanate, all those particles of the silica, they're all bonding together, and with the heat and everything, it creates that structure inside. So when you do put stress on it, it shifts and it creates the electricity, the charge. So it has to be cured at an extreme temperature and a lot of pressure. Pressure.
Thank you. Because Sean's been he's been looking into hookups on materials because obviously, you know, it's hard to get barium titanate, barium ferrite, all those
Yeah.
materials like met glass, especially met glass. I mean, met glass is going to cost
That
you a
used to
small
be-
fortune.
Yeah, that used to be, it used to be very expensive, and I think it still is very expensive. Same as barium.
Yeah. But the reason it's expensive is not because of the material cost, it's because of the secret things you can do with it. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? That's what I was
Yeah.
telling Sean. Like, they mark it up on purpose because the average person can't get these materials, you know?
Yeah, like the amount that I have right
Just
now,
like they make
it's
mercury
probably
unattainable.
Mm-hmm.
the amount I have right now. If I were to sell it all, is about 10 grand worth.
Yeah,
That-
that's
how
awesome.
much- that's how much I have.
Because,
Yeah.
but you bought it knowing it's worth, you know?
I got it for free.
Oh, wow. That's
I got it
awesome.
for free.
Gerald, I
That's
sent you the link if you want to join.
I'm just
I
gonna
have literally,
I'm just gonna
Sorry.
scoot for a quick smoke. I'll be right back.
Hey, Jarvis, met glass is
Hey,
an
Mike.
amorphous metal.
it's a, how would I say this? It's a magnetostrictive metal, that can be used for mechanical purposes with magnetic fields.
It's
The
not
Navy.
glass.
Well,
Transparent?
technically, the glass part is because it's amorphous. Anything amorphous can be called a glass. So
Oh.
it's an amorphous, you know. So
I've seen
more,
the material. It looks transparent.
yeah, just by calling it glass, though, they're just saying it's amorphous. So the difference between a glass and quartz crystal is the quartz crystal has a certain structure. Glass is amorphous, so there's not a set structure throughout the glass structure. It's the same material. Glass is still quartz, technically, but it's not. It's amorphous. You know what I mean? So met glass is just it's an amorphous. Met glass is kind of on a different level. I would stick with the barium ferrite. I think barium ferrite's cool because it's one of those materials that can be both a magnet and electric at the same time. You know what I mean? Barium ferrite's a barium. Like when you get into
Fascinating.
trying to make, yeah. So you want materials that can be both permanently statically charged and permanently magnetically charged. Then you get into material science type of.
Why do you want it like that? What's your reasoning? That you
Like
want it
Sparky
both
Sweet?
statically and permanently?
Yeah, Sparky Sweet, he did something similar to those lines where he utilized both the magnetic field and the electric field. A lot of people know that if you send a balloon up, you're going to get a huge voltage. But by using electrics, you can make it into a confined space. You don't have to send a balloon up to get the potential.
Oh, right.
okay.
Okay, that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah, so you're producing the environment itself that would be mimicked by sending that balloon up in a very confined space.
Y'all see the patent I got up right now?
So you're saying the electret is a way of achieving the voltage potential that you want in a material
Basically, yeah.
without
It's
going high in altitude and all that.
yeah, it's like I say a lot of times, like imagine having a magnet and people are like, who cares what a magnet is? What do you do with it? And literally the Industrial Revolution wouldn't have happened without magnets. And magnets are just the tip of the iceberg. Everything is electrical. And electrics have more impact on everything around us than magnets do. Magnets have certain impacts on.
Yes,
Well,
it
let
is.
me ask you another thing. You got the ability to make the high voltage with a coil and just oscillating it or pulsing it or whatever you want to do with the buck boost function and all that. Why the need for the electret if you can do it with a coil in regards to voltage?
It's a permanent static charge, just like a magnet. So we use magnets to generate electricity with rotors over coils, and it takes a creative thought to see how something that's permanently statically charged can function the same as a magnet would in the future. It's the missing side of the
Oh.
coin. Magnetism does its thing, but electrics will act like magnets, but with electric fields instead of magnetic fields.
Right.
You know, so it takes creativity to see where it can go, you know, and it would take me all day to say where I think it can go, but it's you know, like somebody saying that a magnet is worthless. You would be an idiot to say a magnet's worthless.
So the current fundamental understanding why electrics are useful is that you don't have to apply the charge to them.
It's constantly a static charge, just like if you were to pull your
Right. You don't have to
clothes out the
apply any
dryer.
charge like you do with a coil. You just
It's
have
all
it.
it's always charged, just
Right.
like a
So
magnet.
that's the basic understanding of why it's beneficial at this point.
Yeah.
To
Yeah,
have to use it?
because it is the second side of the coin. You know, electromagnetism is both, but
what you're
nobody
saying.
focuses on the electric side. Magnets have been so beneficial to society, but electrics, like I
Magnets
always
just
say
have
to
the
Sean-
magnetic field. They don't have the electric, the voltage.
Yeah, I always say I kid around to Sean. I say, anything you can do, I can do better. Like anything a magnet can do, an electric can do beyond its ability, because electrics act on all matter. Magnets act on specific types of arrangements of valence atoms to give them magnetism.
Who wants
Like,
their mind blown? Sorry to interrupt, but what we're looking at, oh, not just the alchemy. Oh, look at the height of the tower and the corresponding potentials that
That's
are
awesome.
mapped and gridded for electrical potential from the atmosphere and harvesting.
May I
Just
say
saying.
this, Bernie? Remember what I told you what the philosopher's Mercury was?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
We'll never.
Well, what I will
forget.
say, and we won't repeat that now, but what I will say with the philosopher's magnet is an electric. They
Yeah,
use
Jeremiah
Ah,
said you're wrong about
appreciate
something.
that.
George.
And
I'm right. I know I'm right, dude. You can't.
Does
say
this
I'm
not look very familiar
about
there,
what?
Jeremiah, who's watching? The current patent I have up to what I was telling him and then what
It's just
he
gonna look bad.
came up with. And it's like, oh, look at that. Someone else came up with it, but I channeled it and he figured it out.
He says you're wrong about something.
All right. What am I wrong about, Mike?
No, not me. Jeremiah is saying in the chat something he said is, I don't know, probably about electrics or the magnetism or something.
You know, an electric charge can attract all metals. You know, copper, silver, gold.
Well, I mean, doesn't the electric charge need the amps to do that, though?
No, it's an electric. It's a
electric typhoon spacecraft.
Yeah, it'll attract it to a minute level, but if you want more attraction, you need to involve the amps with that voltage, don't you?
That's where it comes to alignment of fields. Magnets and electrics can be combined, you know. But on a basic level, imagine your clothes coming out of the dryer and having really dry sand that has gold flowers. You could take your laundry, if it's statically charged, and attract the gold flowers out of the sand, as long as it's very dry. That's the philosopher's magnet. And Bernie will know what I'm saying here when it comes to
fully do.
When it comes to the philosopher's
the magnet is
Mercury,
needed to warp both.
I agree. A potential can attract anything, but at what amplitude,
Lordy B. I just can't.
Very minimal at this point, from what I understand.
I don't know.
The electrics don't have the power yet, the amps going.
All right. United States patent measure or what? What do we have here?
That's what I understand, that they're working on
photon
increasing the amplitude of the electrics.
Trust me, man. It's
solid state Tesla coil suit. Solid state Tesla coil suit.
What?
What?
Well, once they do, though,
Old man builds. I think you need to build this one. Man. Nathan, this one is you.
That
Solid
is Old Man
state
Mills.
Tesla coil suit.
That is Old Man Mills for real.
I found some
Yeah.
Avrocar pics if you want to see them.
Oh yes, please. By all
Yeah.
means, bring them up.
They're gonna be the front, but this is what's silly. This is what people see and they think it's not good, but it's a background, like Mike Faraday's saying. Faraday Research, sorry.
Oh, sorry, gotta. There we go.
That's the Avrocar.
Okay, yeah. Ah,
that's a air propeller, no?
well,
Yeah,
that's
it's a-
what they
Hovercraft.
claim. That's what they built this model of. But it's that I found the corresponding patents that go along after it, and that
Right.
like Mike Faraday was saying, this was just the cover, right? So
Right.
they're like, oh,
This
we
was-
built this vertical
Yeah.
takeoff lift thing that didn't really balance, and don't look into it.
Exactly.
And then there's 10 more
exactly.
patents that go along after.
Exactly.
So this was the front. Now the big one they had was 120 meters in diameter. Apparently, it was huge. It took up the whole hangar.
It just blows.
That was a good line.
Yeah, that's just the Avrocar. I think that's just a distraction.
Yep. Yeah, it was very much so.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was their cover for, hey, anytime you see a disc-shaped craft, it was just us testing the vertical takeoff thing that doesn't really work.
The funny thing is, it really works very well because most people are going to be like, what's so special?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, it does work.
Oh,
They're good at what they do, man.
we're gonna get
And also the Avro Aero, the airplane itself, that was also a front as well. That was going to be put into production, but Eisenhower basically told Diefenbaker to shut the program down.
Mm.
But all the real engineering was done by a company in Toronto, where Ian Taz and Bert England and all these great engineers, they work for a company called Design X. And that's where they were working on the cold heat engine at the same time. That was one of their projects. One other project.
That's how they were powering the technology. That makes
That's
so
right.
much sense.
That was exactly what the purpose of that motor was going to do. Right, power the.
Bingo, bango.
From my perspective, they're using all these exotic explanations, such as the Bob Lazar explanation with the gravity. And
You know what?
engine. It's all being used to say you can't do it. You can't
Exactly.
do anti-gravity because it's got to be complicated. And let's not forget, sound is very capable at levitating things. Okay.
Right. Yep.
And they
Mhm.
just
I agree.
do all these things to get us to forget about using sound in our experiments, which
Or
is the
even
easiest way.
another element, Mike. Think of this one, because a lot of these UFO
Ralph
sightings,
Rings,
they're saying these things are huge.
Ralph brings the snake salesman.
But just listen
Give
to
me a
this
break.
idea.
Ralph Rings
Listen to
is
this
authentic.
idea.
No, Ralph brings the snake salesman.
Listen to this idea. Okay.
He worked with Otis D. Card. You're going to call him a snake salesman now.
Yes, I am.
All right, enough of that. Let's listen to what Faraday has to say first.
Okay.
Sorry.
Think of it
Let's listen.
now. Okay. Obvious what they had in Area 51, the Bob Lazar thing. Okay. That engineering is way beyond what we're capable of doing. Okay. Way beyond. If it's true. Okay. Now,
If
we could have anti-gravity devices right now by kind of cheating. Okay. Very, very simple. Making giant UFOs, but filled with helium. There goes your gravity. It's gone right there.
Well, you're
And
talking about like aerogel structures with
Right.
the
With helium.
Yeah, the
with
Tic
helium.
Tac. yeah, but that's kind of cheating. But you're right.
It-
Yeah, you
no,
can do it that
but
way.
think about
For
it. Think about
drones.
it.
You could.
because-
You could.
Think about it this way.
Exactly how the
A lot of-
MH370 orbs are. I
there's
believe.
also the stuff like Terran Earth is describing. You know, the polar the charge potential, the charge on the hull of the craft, whether it be an air balloon or whatever, a solid object. You give it a high voltage charge to the hull, and there goes your gravity.
Well,
again.
think about it this way.
Anybody with Otis T. Carr, though, like he would literally make it into an advertisement where you go into there and give you the experience of seeing indigo and transport you to a different place. But it was a gimmick. It was a gimmick, and it's proven it was a gimmick.
There's definitely
It
more than one way
literally
to do AG. You know?
It was a gimmick.
The
Sorry.
I
Schauberger
don't know. I've
method.
been taking a look at Otis T. Carr stuff lately, and
I know. I've looked into it too, but it's a gimmick. Trust me, he's a snake salesman. It's not. It's
I don't
not.
think so. I think there's more.
Hey,
to it.
you're welcome to think what you want. You know what I
Thank
mean?
you.
If you get results, you
Exactly.
get results. That's all.
If I were to make a UFO right now, okay, based on our current technology that we have, all right, we know we don't have the technology of what the Bob Lazar.
What would you
story
use, Mike?
has. Honestly, I would make a giant, helium type balloon that looks like a UFO, but to make it move, use the electrogravitics. That way, it doesn't make any sound.
You know what I
I
would
think
do?
Jeremiah
I'd build a
Jeremiah
big
knows
speaker,
what I would do.
put it facing down the craft.
With the
Tune it
A
correctly.
field, the A field is more important than you guys get right now. The A
But
field
think
is
about-
essential.
But what
It's a
what
free
I'm getting
potential.
at,
So
what I'm
that you
getting
can
at, with-
utilize the A field is going to go more towards lift and propulsion when it comes to
kind of what I'm
electric-
getting at.
Forget what the A field
is-
is. Is that the magnetic or the electric?
It's a vector potential. Sorry, Mike. I'm so sorry.
What I'm getting at is with helium, you don't need any energy. So that solves one problem on lift. Now you can focus all your power that you generate in that UFO with electrogravitics, which would move your helium balloon
Bingo.
high speed with no sound.
Balloon at high speed would just, it's not a solid.
I wish I
structure.
got
Well,
paid for
no,
any
you're-
picture.
No,
made.
you're going to shape it like a UFO, so it'll have the same dimensions as a UFO, but filled with helium. Now, a lot of these UFO sightings, they're saying these things are huge. Well, who's to say that they don't have either hydrogen inside or helium to give it lift? If you
It's
can
like
take
a sophisticated blimp.
right, so if you say you're able to cancel out the weight of the craft by 80%. It doesn't
This would
that
have to be a
cancel
craft.
G-forces?
This would have to be an unmanned craft here. You could drone something like that, but you can't breathe in helium or hydrogen atmosphere.
No,
You know what I
it'd
mean?
be engineered to,
It would
have
be a
certain
drone.
areas.
I
But
still think you need
it's-
the high
it's
potential
certainly
charge to cancel
possible.
the G-force.
It's certainly
something
possible,
else.
but it would have to be a drone. You can't literally have a hydrogen or a helium environment with a person on board.
No, you would engineer it so parts of the craft wouldn't have that. You have, like little pockets inside that chamber where the helium is that is strictly for the occupants, right? And electrogravitics would go on the outside skin of the craft. And if you could eliminate the weight of the craft by even 80%, that's a huge energy savings on the craft. So all you have to worry about is propelling it without
A
making
small
any
amount of
sound.
propulsion goes a long way in that scenario.
Exactly, sure. Especially if it weighs like 10 tons.
Especially if you have the electric field canceling G-force. If
Yeah,
you're able to do that.
Yeah.
It's not far-fetched for a high voltage potential to cancel G-force. It is probably a specific voltage too. I don't think it's just any voltage. Probably a range of voltage that is required to negate any G-forces that are, hitting the craft.
Yeah. So we're getting close to the end here, and my apologies, everyone, for how quickly I've been going through the photos, as I will be doing full breakdown episodes that are organized with all of these
That looks like a
patents.
speaker.
It does, but it's a UFO, of course, the disc-shaped craft. as they all are.
Looks like a
This one is
complicated
pretty
sound device.
Yes, good call. Yes, exactly, because the acoustic property is a huge property within it. Great observation.
Yep, you make the right frequency, it's going to cancel it out. You're gonna get cancellation of mass.
Yep. And that's
Good job, Bernie.
exactly what that was, Jeremiah. So you can help me get some funding, and I can give you all of these files plus the rest of it. All right. Closing words, my friends. Mr. Mike Jarvis.
Friday we're go for the show at 9:00 Eastern, right at Faraday Research. So that's about it.
I will be there.
Hit the thumbs up, guys.
Right, always great advice, Mr. Mike. And Jarvis, you there? You muted? You're not sure? Maybe. Yeah, I guess
it's lightning.
probably. All right. Well, there we go. I guess, everybody check out Faraday Research. Everyone check out Mike Does. Everyone check out Paranoid American, our great guest that was here. Oh, and for those that weren't here at the start, we'll play one more time the quick video of that Nathan or Thomas had shared that he did working with Disney about super wave fusion, cold fusion, and it's the exact processes, but more complex than what we've actually figured out ourselves. Fascinating stuff. This research is so advanced, there is still no mathematical formula for it. Oh, wait, that's what I have been writing out. Ha, 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 ha. Win me a Nobel Prize.
Did you hear Trump's getting a Nobel Peace Prize?
Yeah. They gave Obama one before he bombed 8 countries, so, yeah.
A volt is applied to 2 electrons.
Right.
Immersed in an electrolytic solution of heavy water and lithium salts. This establishes a flow of current from a strip of palladium, acting as the cathode, to several platinum coils, acting as the anode. Temperature sensors measure the temperature of the electrolyte solution within the cell, as well as the cooling water that surrounds it in the larger jacket container.
What is this, Bernie?
Within the
I was saying I desperately need a travel fund, but
No. What is this thing we're looking at?
So this is an Israeli startup or something that had hired Thomas, Paranoid American, while he was working. They hired Disney to do this mock-up animation for them, and they did a few of these, and then it's like the company just disappeared. And this is from 2008. And
is this some kind of fusion device or something?
Yeah, it's a cold fusion device, right? Oh. And so it's showing heavy water here. The oxygen, and then the D's are deuterium, which is just hydrogen with extra neutrons in it. And yeah, so we'll play this little video here, and then I'll quickly explain how what we've discovered is all of this, but way easier, less complex, and we understand the mathematics.
Solution. Many of the D2O heavy water molecules are dissociated into OD negative and D positive ions. When the voltage is applied to the electrodes, the OD negative ions are attracted to the positively charged platinum anodes, where they lose an electron and combine with other OD ions to reform back into D2O, while the remaining orphaned oxygen atoms combine to form O2, which escapes as a gas up to the surface of the solution. Meanwhile, the D positive ions are attracted to the negatively charged palladium cathode, where they quickly find an electron on the surface of the cathode to neutralize their charge. This cathode is made of palladium atoms, arranged in a face-centered cubic lattice. Some deuterium atoms work their way into the lattice by popping through the interatomic sites within the lattice. other deuterium atoms bump into each other along the surface of the palladium cathode and form a D2 molecule that's too big to enter the lattice. These D2 molecules cluster to form bubbles that rise up in the electrolyte solution. Simultaneously, new D2O molecules are dissociated in the electrolyte into more OD negative and D positive ions. So the process continues as long as the voltage is applied. However, when the super wave principle is used to vary the current with a pattern of rising and falling nested oscillations, the loading of deuterium atoms within the palladium lattice is enhanced, and so
If you
is
get a
the
moment,
flow of deuterium
Bernie,
atoms
Stanley
in
Meyer.
and out of the cathode. As the
you get a
concentration
moment,
of deuterium
Bernie,
in the
could
lattice
you
across
check
the
the
cathode
private chat?
surface increases, the deuterium starts to work its way deeper into the lattice, popping into neighboring interatomic sites. As the deuterium occupies more of these interior sites, the lattice dimensions increases a little. This lattice expansion causes mechanical
You get a
stresses
moment, can
in
you
the
check the
cathode
private chat,
that
Bernie?
impose resistance to
That's how
deuterium
the wood
diffusion,
burgers.
thus requiring higher currents to force more deuterium atoms into the lattice until it reaches saturation. When the concentration of deuterium within the lattice is high, they begin to move more collectively, like a school of fish or flock of birds.
They're in
Not all
resonance.
at once, but increasingly synchronized over time. At this point, pairs of deuterium atoms begin to disappear, fusing together to form an atom of helium-4 isotope. A significant amount of heat is released in this fusion process. The energy released by each helium atom that appears, 24 million electron volts, is dissipated.
Okay, running out of time. So, we've been able to reproduce that without needing the deuterium and still to make helium out of hydrogen, and also just through acoustic transmutate aluminum into iron. But we'll get into
Would you
that.
mind showing the wood burgers? in
I'm
the private
sorry, I don't have enough time, but I posted it in the link, but we only have 30 seconds left, so I have to end it. But
Ah,
anyone that wants to
all right.
No
join
worries.
me after
No worries.
can do, and I posted the link to join in the live chat. Love you all. We'll see you on the next one.
You crazy mother. Yeah.
It's just Bernie! Hey, Bernie, just like last week, huh?
Weekend at Bernie's.